Hey guys, welcome to DAAPWorks. And if you're not at DAAPWorks, then hello internet. Today, I want to tell you all about social capital, why it's important, and how it relates to shifts in urbanization, which by shifts in urbanization, I'm referring primarily to changing the design of American neighborhoods, from higher density urban areas with a greater mix of uses into lower density suburbs where only other residential uses are located within walking distance from one's home. In America, social capital has been declining since the mid-20th century. On average, Americans are becoming less involved in both formal and informal social gatherings than older generations, and are spending more of their time alone consuming entertainment, a trend towards social isolation that is inextricably linked to our nation's ongoing mental health crisis. This deterioration in fulfilling relationships among many Americans is the paramount factor negatively affecting the long-term happiness of a lot of people in our nation. And this downward trend has been partially attributed to shifts in urbanization. In 1950, less than a quarter of Americans lived in the suburbs, but since 2000, this fraction has increased to over half. Additionally, the suburbs that we are living in have become further isolated from the places where we work and the various third places where we shop, socialize, worship, and fulfill other necessary functions. This geographic isolation from other people can be linked to America's epidemic of social isolation, mostly as it pertains to our alienation from our neighbors, whom we have fewer opportunities than ever to socially interact with in any meaningful way. Compared to these suburbs, neighborhoods with higher proximities between necessary uses facilitate higher levels of social capital. Furthermore, given that these neighborhoods have more public spaces available for community events, we can assume that the presence of institutions like CURCs, which organize these events and lead projects to activate these spaces, also help to increase neighborhood social capital. However, we do not know how much of an impact urbanization factors have on neighborhood social capital, as contrasted with other factors, such as those related to advancements in technology, which includes how social media has impacted our lives. Therefore, for this study, I researched 3 compact and mixed-use neighborhoods in Cincinnati: College Hill, Northside, and Madisonville. Given that the design of these neighborhoods resemble others built around the early 20th century, rather than the more recently built suburbs that most of us live in, we can juxtapose these neighborhoods with the average one in America. I also looked into each of these neighborhood CURCs, among other local actors, including residents themselves, to see if I could recommend any of these neighborhoods as strategies to others, depending on how much more socially interconnected residents have become with their neighbors due to their efforts. Okay, first of all, looking at these 3 neighborhoods as levels of social capital. The resident survey respondents spent significantly more of their time engaged in social gatherings than nationwide respondents to the most recent American Time Use survey. With the 3 neighborhoods' residents socializing as often as Americans on average consume entertainment, an activity usually done alone. Additionally, residents of these neighborhoods know more of their neighbors and attend more social gatherings with them than Americans nationally. Therefore, we can ascertain that these 3 communities have higher levels of neighborhood social capital. Now, we might know that these 3 compact and mixed-use neighborhoods are relatively more socially interconnected than average, but we have not discovered whether the built environment itself has had a significant impact. Beginning with the factor of proximity, the residents of these 3 neighborhoods more often walk or bike to necessary uses within a few minutes' drive from one's home than Americans on average drive their cars to these uses. These statistics make a lot of sense. Each of these 3 neighborhoods have a centrally located business district accessible through sidewalks to most residents. In College Hill and Northside, there are dozens of restaurants, bars, and coffee shops located in these downtowns. On top of that, as a result of outdoor improvement programs led by College Hill CRC, there have been additional social meeting places developed around bars and nearby parks. Furthermore, Northside Nest has installed crosswalks and bump outs to ensure pedestrian safety on their streets. So, given that these neighborhoods have walkable streets and so many hospitality-oriented commercial uses in their downtowns, there are more opportunities for social interaction in these neighborhoods than most in America, which means that these communities have likely been able to form stronger social ties with one another. Furthermore, we can recommend the public space activation and pedestrian safety initiatives of CURC and Nest, respectively, to other neighborhoods. Okay. So we might be able to link positive social outcomes to the built environment, but these links are somewhat tangential. Therefore, it is necessary for us to look at the other factor related to urbanization, which is, I'll dub, placefulness, a factor that necessitates strong attachments to one's environment and, for that reason, provides a strong sense of shared ownership between community members. So, through resident interviews, we can link this abstract factor directly to neighborhood social capital. From asking about neighborhood landmarks, I received a range of answers from respondents, but most of these answers pertain to structures distinguished by their aesthetic appeal.
I love Nest and their incredible work. I've also attended a few of their free events where they engage the community for feedback. Always a good time. Also, yes, Nest commissioned many murals as public art to dissuade tagging. The list of their work goes on.
These murals, which have been commissioned by Nest, have stopped people from vandalizing their environment. Through beautification efforts like this, we can increase residents' desires to keep their environment clean, which is highly correlated with perceptions of neighborhood safety and social trust. From these findings, we should recommend beautification projects for other neighborhoods. Lastly, upon asking neighborhood residents about their favorite neighborhood events to attend, the events organized by the local CURCs were the most popular, primarily Light Up College Hill. However, given that the Madisonville CURC is preoccupied with the ongoing redevelopment of its downtown, there have not been any neighborhood level events since 2019 in this neighborhood. Given this condition, block level events were mentioned instead, with one interviewee from Madisonville mentioning July 4th as a notable time when such engaging events occur. So, through such annual events, people get to become much closer with their neighbors. Therefore, we would recommend that other neighborhoods help organize or finance at least such recurrent events of any scale. Now that we know factors related to urbanization have significantly impacted these three neighborhoods for the better regarding their levels of neighborhood social capital, we must juxtapose these factors with those unrelated to urbanization. Through the surveys and interviews of neighborhood residents, the only factor that was found to have had an impact on our study's results were demographic factors. While cultural differences were discovered to help build social capital in College Hill.
Hey, outside stuff like tech can really mess with neighborly bonds. But when you gather around some soul food at neighborhood events or clubs, it breaks down barriers and brings people closer than ever. It's not just about the layout. It's a mix of things, including the soulful experience of enjoying good food together.
This factor has helped explain the comparatively lower social outcomes of Madisonville.
I think, to a certain extent, neighbors are not forming strong social bonds with one another, since gentrification is obviously happening. Worlds are kind of colliding in a way between the residents that have been here for years and the younger people moving in.
This factor is certainly notable as Madisonville's population has been rapidly growing for the past decade. And while many of the original residents are working class families, the newer residents are young single professionals that are less engaged in social activities, primarily due to most of their family and friends living outside of the new neighborhood they've moved into. Okay, to end this video off, the national decline in social capital has somewhat recently transformed into a public health issue, but there are multiple planning-oriented solutions applicable to all of your neighborhoods that can help bring us closer together with our neighbors. Okay, I hope that you enjoy the rest of DAAPWorks, and if you're not at DAAPWorks, then thanks for watching.